Well, this is my weekly report to the voters of the 37th, and this time we're doing it here in the Senate chamber, where a moment from now we're going to do about 9 bills, all having to do with human trafficking. These are bills that have come through my committee, and I have worked on literally every one of them. The gist of this is that we are seriously going after gangs, many of them international gangs, that specialize in, let's be blunt, pimping young women. This is, it has become a much more serious problem than it already was in the few years since we last visited this issue. We have several bills that are going to make it not only a more serious crime, but expand the scope of the crime. For example, we have one bill from Senator Cole Wells on the issue of advertising. Let's also be blunt here. This is about backpages.com. It is published in Seattle in the weekly. It's also published online. Its purpose is to advertise escort services and the like, but there have been reports from the Seattle police that a number of the young women, typically women, could be young boys, who are depicted in some of those ads are minors. Under these bills, the commercial sexual abuse of minors, CSAM, is made a serious crime. What we have is a balance between the interests, not simply of law enforcement, that's an abstraction, but of particular young women and men who are victimized frequently by international pimps. And let's use that word where it belongs. These are pimps. Advertising it is also made a serious crime. Advertising is an exercise of commercial free speech. Bans on advertising are scrutinized under the First Amendment. So this bill has been very carefully drafted. There is no right to advertise a crime. You can't say, I'm a gun for hire me and I'll murder somebody. Similarly, you can't say, this is prostitution and this is a minor and come get it. That is unfortunately what at least one of the local newspapers is contracting for, not doing it themselves. It's not the weekly, it's Backpage. All we ask is that the press, or that small portion of the press that wants to run these kinds of ads, simply has to ask. And if that is found to be an undue burden, well, at least we will have tried. I believe this bill will survive the inevitable scrutiny that the courts will give it. I believe it will be the subject of litigation, and I believe we'll win. This is a crime. It ought to remain a crime. It ought to become a crime. And with that, I urge the passage of the bill. It's not lightly that we prevent the exercise of a free speech related right, in this case a commercial free speech right. But when it comes to a crime, the state has compelling interest to prevent that and to prevent the spread of the crime. The advertiser has some moral responsibility, and we're making the advertiser's answer to that. All the advertiser has to do is what the stranger already does, and that is get verification about the age of the person whose services are being advertised. If the stranger can do it, Backpages can do it. And that's what this bill would do. We have a number of other bills that would also increase the sentence, increase the penalties, include in the crime not just where there happens to be actual sexual contact, but where the victim is made to perform a dance or a pole dance or whatever. These criminal gangs, many of them, as I said, that operate internationally and have their base in Seattle or SeaTac, what they're doing is not simply the victimless crime of prostitution. This is a truly victimizing crime for young women, many of them brought here under the guise that they were going to work as maids or work in hotels and so forth, and be able to send money back to their home country. We have a moral obligation to do it, and we're going to do it.